Reading through the Bible in a year. October 13th, 1 Kings chapter 16, Colossians chapter 3, Ezekiel 46, and Psalm 102. Now the word of Yahweh came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha, saying, Inasmuch as I exalted you from the dust and made you ruler over my people Israel, and you have walked in the way of Jeroboam, and have made my people Israel sin, provoking me to anger with their sins, behold, I am going to sweep away Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Remember, it was Baasha who had utterly wiped them out by the command of Yahweh, even though he may have not even known he was doing it. Verse 4, anyone of Baasha who dies in the city, the dogs will eat. Anyone of his who dies in the field, the birds of the sky will eat. Now the rest of the acts of Baasha, and what he did and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Baasha slept with his fathers, and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah his son became king in his place. Moreover, the word of Yahweh through the hand of the prophet Jehu, the son of Hanani, also came about against Baasha and his household, both because of all the evil which he did in the sight of Yahweh, provoking him to anger with the work of his hands, in being like the house of Jeroboam, and because he struck it. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah, the son of Baasha, became king over Israel at Tirzah, and he reigned 2 years. And his servant Zimri, commander of half his chariots, conspired against him. Now he was at Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, who was over the household at Tirzah. Then Zimri, went in and struck him, and put him to death in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, and became king in his place. Now it happened, when he became king, as soon as he sat on his throne, that he struck down all the household of Baasha. He did not leave a single male, not even any of his kinsmen redeemers or his friends. Thus Zimri, destroyed the household of Baasha, according to the word of Yahweh, which he had spoken against Baasha by the hand of Jehu the prophet. For all the sins of Baasha, and the sins of Elah his son, which they sinned, and which they made Israel sin, provoking Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Elah, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri, reigned 7 days at Tirzah. Now the people were camped against Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. And the people who were camped heard it said, Zimri, has conspired and has also struck down the king. Therefore all Israel made Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel that day in the camp. Then Omri, and all Israel with him went up from Gibbethon and besieged Tirzah. Now it happened that when Zimri, saw that the city was captured, he went into the citadel of the king's house and burned the king's house over him with fire, and died, because of these sins which he had sinned, doing what is evil in the sight of Yahweh, walking in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin which he did, making Israel to sin. Now the rest of the acts of Zimri, and his conspiracy which he carried out, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Then the people of Israel were divided into 2 parts. Half of the people followed Timni, the son of Ginath, to make him king. The other half followed Omri. But the people who followed Omri prevailed over the people who followed Timni, the son of Ginath. And Timni died, and Omri became king. In the 31st year of Asa, king of Judah, Omri became king over Israel, and reigned 12 years. He reigned 6 years at Tirzah. And he bought the hill Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. That's not really a lot. And he built on the hill, and named the city which he had built Samaria, after the name Shemer, the owner of the hill. And Omri did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and acted more wickedly than all who were before him. For he walked in all the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in his sins which he made Israel to sin, provoking Yahweh the God of Israel to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Omri, which he did, and his might which he showed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Omri slept with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab his son became king in his place. Now Ahab the son of Omri became king over Israel the 38th year of Asa king of Judah. Remember, Asa only reigned for 41 years. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab the son of Omri did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, more than all who were before him. Now it happened, as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, as a wife, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Ahab also made the Asherah. Thus Ahab did more to provoke Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel who were before him. In his days, Hiel the Bethelite built Jericho. He laid its foundations with the loss of Abiram his firstborn, and set up its gates with the loss of his youngest, Segub, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke by the hand of Joshua the son of Nun. If you remember this, when Jericho was taken down, when it was destroyed, this is something that God said would happen, that if anyone were to rebuild Jericho, and again, he's God, he knew it was going to happen, he said that it would be at the loss of the person's firstborn and of their youngest. Let's move on now to Colossians chapter 3. Paul continues, "Therefore, if you have been raised up with Christ, keep seeking the things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on the things above, not the things that are on earth. For you died, and your life has been hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, is manifested, revealed, then you also will be manifested with him in glory. Therefore, consider the members of your earthly body as dead to sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience. And in them you also once walked when you were living in them. But now you also lay them aside. Lay them all aside, wrath, anger, malice, slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you put off the old man with its evil practices, and you've put on the new man who is being renewed to a full knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. A renewal in which there is no distinction between Greek and Jew. There's that mystery again. Circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, a slave and freeman. But Christ is all and in all. So as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another, and graciously forgiving each other, whoever has a complaint against anyone. Just as the Lord graciously forgave you, so also should you. Above all these things, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, with all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with gratefulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Wives, be subject to your husbands, as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives, and do not be embittered against them. Children, obey your parents in all things, so that they will not lose heart. Slaves, in all things, obey those who are your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but with the integrity of heart, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. Serve the Lord Christ. For he who does wrong will receive the consequence of the wrong which he has done, and that without partiality. Now, Ezekiel 46. Thus says Lord Yahweh, at the gate of the inner court facing east shall be the The gate of the inner court facing east shall be shut the 6 working days, but it shall be opened on the Sabbath day, and opened on the day of the new moon. The prince shall enter by way of the porch of the gate from outside, and stand by the post of the gate. Then the priest shall provide his burnt offering and his peace offering, and he shall worship at the threshold of the gate and then go out. But the gate shall not be shut until evening. And the people of the land shall also worship at the entrance of that gate before Yahweh on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. Now, the burnt offering which the prince shall bring near to Yahweh on the Sabbath day shall be 6 lambs without blemish, and a ram without blemish. And the grain offering shall be an ephah with the ram, and the grain offering with the lamb shall be a gift from his hand, as well as a hin of oil with an ephah. And on the day of the new moon he shall offer a bull from the herd, without blemish, also 6 lambs with the ram, or 6 lambs and a ram, which shall be without blemish. And he shall provide a grain offering, an ephah with the bull, and an ephah with the ram, with the lambs as much as he is able, and a hin of oil with an ephah. And when the prince enters, he shall go in by way of the porch of the gate, and go out by the same way. But when the people of the land come before Yahweh at the appointed times, he who enters by way of the north gate to worship shall go out by way of the south gate, and he who enters by way of the south gate shall go out by way of the north gate. No one shall return by way of the gate by which he entered, but shall go straight out. Is there a note on this one? Back to verse 10. So when they go in, the prince shall go in among them, and when they go out, he shall go out. Reading the note on this because it's kind of a weird section. From the ESV Study Bible, the movements of prince and people are coordinated for festival gatherings. The prince's use of the east gate is limited to his station there. Verse 8 prohibits its use as a thoroughfare. The regulation of crowd movement in verse 9 is clear, although no explanation is offered. It could be simply for practical crowd control. Little in Ezekiel's vision lacks deeper significance, however, and it is possible that this regulation also intends something more. One effect of the regulation is to ensure that the whole community makes use of the whole court, or rather the whole of the outer court, and thereby must pass the east gate to the inner court, which stands open to the presence of God's glory. By integration of the prince's movements with the rest of the people, his special status is given its proper context. Although he is the prince of the people, he belongs with them. Back to verse 11. Now, at the feasts and the appointed times, the grain offering shall be an ephah with a bull and an ephah with a ram, and the lamb shall be a gift from his hand, as well as a hin of oil with an ephah. And when the prince provides a freewill offering, a burnt offering or a peace offering, as a freewill offering to Yahweh, the gate facing east shall be opened for him. And he shall provide his burnt offering and his peace offerings as he does on the Sabbath day. Then he shall go out, and the gate shall be shut after he goes out. And you shall provide a lamb a year old without blemish for a burnt offering to Yahweh daily. Morning by morning you shall provide it. You shall provide a grain offering with it morning by morning, a sixth of an ephah, as well as a third of a hin of oil to moisten the fine flour, a grain offering to Yahweh continually, by a perpetual statute. Thus they shall provide the lamb, the grain offering, and the oil, morning by morning, for a continual burnt offering. Thus says Lord Yahweh, if the prince gives a gift out of his inheritance to any of his sons, it shall belong to his sons. It is their possession by inheritance. But if he gives a gift from his inheritance to one of his servants, it shall be his until the year of liberty, the year of Jubilee. Then it shall return to the prince. His inheritance shall be only his sons. It shall belong to them. Now the prince shall not take from the people's inheritance, mistreating them out of their possession. He shall give his son's inheritance from his own possession, so that my people will not be scattered, anyone from his possession. Then he brought me through the entrance, which was at the side of the gate, into the holy chambers for the priests, which faced north. And behold, there was a place at the extreme rear toward the west. Then he said to me, this is the place where the priests shall boil the guilt offering and the sin offering, where they shall bake grain for the offering, in order that they may not bring them out into the outer court to transmit holiness to the people. Then he brought me out into the outer court, and had me pass through to the four corners of the court. And behold, in every corner of the court there was a small court. In the four corners of the court there were enclosed courts, 40 cubits long and 30 wide. These four in the corners were the same size. Now there was a row of masonry round about in them, around the four of them, and boiling places were made under the rows round about. Then he said to me, these are the boiling places, where the ministers of the house shall boil the sacrifices of the people. Let's conclude today in Psalm 102. O Yahweh, hear my prayer, and let my cry for help come to you. Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. In the day when I call, answer me quickly. For my days have vanished like smoke, or vanished in smoke, and my bones have been scorched like a hearth. My heart has been stricken like grass, and it is dried up. Indeed, I forget to eat my bread because of the sound of because of the sound of my groaning. My bones cling to my flesh. I resemble a pelican of the wilderness. I have become like an owl of the waste places. I lie awake. I have become like a lonely bird on a roof. My enemies have reproached me all day long. Those who ridicule me swear against me. For I have eaten ashes like bread, and mixed my drinks with weeping, because of your indignation and your wrath, because you have lifted me up and cast me away. My days are like an outstretched shadow. As for me, I dry up like grass. But you, O Yahweh, abide forever, and the remembrance of your name from generation to generation. You will arise and have compassion on Zion, for it's time to be gracious to it. For it is time to be gracious to it, for the appointed time has come. For your slaves find pleasure in its stones and show grace to its dust. So the nations will fear the name of Yahweh, and the kings of the earth your glory. For Yahweh has built up Zion. He has appeared in his glory. He has turned toward the prayer of the destitute, and has not despised their prayer. This will be written for the generation to come, and a people yet to be created will praise Yah. For he looked down from his holy height. From heaven Yahweh gazed upon the earth, to hear the groaning of the prisoner, to set free those who were doomed to death, to recount the name of Yahweh in Zion, and his praise in Jerusalem. When the peoples are gathered together, and the kingdoms to serve Yahweh. He has afflicted my strength in the way. He has shortened my days. I say, O my God, do not take me away in the midst of my days. Your years are from generation to all generations. Of old you founded the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. Even they will perish, but you will remain. And all of them will wear out like a garment. Like clothing, you will change them, and they will be changed. But you are the same, and your years will not come to an end. The children of your slaves will dwell securely, and their seed will be established before you. That's all for today. That's all the reading and also all of the notes. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.